Six will go through, and this is the case in all of the second chance heats. Join the back of the grid for the point scoring races. So they'll fill grid places 29 through to 34. If you don't make it into the top six in these second chance final races, I'm afraid it's the end of your weekend in terms of track action. Everybody who doesn't get into the top six is then out of the meeting. So that's the way it works. There you can see on the screen the chicane at turn 6, the back straight that comes into this right-hander in front of you on the screen. That's turn number 7. And then they go through a left-hander at turn 8 into turn 9. And this is turn 10 where they turn right. And that's lots of overtaking opportunities there into that corner. So that's a good one to keep an eye on. You can easily pick it out with the big arrow that's on the tarmac. They run out of there, through another right-hander, through a left-hander at turn 12, into a hairpin at turn 13, where again there's lots of overtaking opportunities. And the final corner, which they're coming into now on your shot, that's turn 14. That leads them back onto the start-finish straight. And that's a tight right-hander, a double apex right-hander that begins another lap. They're on to the second formation lap then. And to talk you through the start of this first race of the weekend, let's hand you over to Ken Walker.
Yes, thank you, Chris. It's easy to say it's a little bit of a hors d'oeuvre rather than the main event, isn't it? But for the drivers that are out there, it's continue in the event or load up and go home. And although that's only going to apply to one of them, each and every one of those 7 don't want it to be them, do they? Uldis Timax, making his Rotax Euro Challenge debut, has a great chance of winning a race on his debut. He starts on pole position, as Chris has just told you. The same applies with Julien Renaudin, the Frenchman. He's making his debut. Could he win on his debut? He starts on the front row. The only other driver that makes his debut in these 7 is Oriol Dalmau Caballero, and he too could win this one, because although he starts last, it's only last of 7, and he was by far the quickest in qualifying practice. So a few little stories within the race, but as I said 5 or 6 minutes ago, not relishing the thought of telling you at the end of the race that there's just one of the guys you've just watched who will not continue. The good news from the second chance heat is that Annalisa Dreispring of Germany, who would have started on pole position, no need to. She gets promoted to the main event by virtue of Senderou's unfortunate withdrawal from the meeting. Okay, 9 laps. And the first thing we're going to say to Uldis Timax is he's not brought them round too quickly, Chris. So the guys, by the very nature of things, are often inexperienced in the front, making starts from pole position. Certainly it can be a challenge to your race callers, because it's not the names that we're calling at the front very often, but here we go. And we're racing, and Uldis Timax just a little bit slowly away, and Julien Renaudin getting a better shot, but Julien Renaudin having to be satisfied with second place at the moment. That's Chris Grön in third place. So Uldis Timax of Latvia leading from Julien Renaudin of France, Chris Grön the Dutchman, and immediately Caballero making progress forward, and Chris Grön going into, Julien Renaudin going into second place and into the lead. Was that so? Uldis Timax has made a tentative start from the front row, but a flying start by Chris Grön and Julien Renaudin, and already the battle for not finishing last appears to be between 5 of them rather than 7 of them. It's a 9-lap race. It's the full race distance, even though we have the small field. Uldis Timax kart 773, who started on pole position. Chris Grön kart 764. Both of those two are masters. 617 Luca Kamali. I didn't think I called his name, did I, when he came forward as he did? He showed a real quick turn of pace. But 656 in the lead, Julien Renaudin. Behind him, it was confirmation that it was Luca Kamali. Florent Lambert, I also didn't call when he went through into third place, but they're the guys who are pulling away from the field. And whilst I don't want to discount those front 3, let's keep our eyes on the back 4. At the moment, oh dear, Maxim Shaposhnikov getting himself a little bit detached. When Maxim first came and raced with us in Masters, it was really quite a struggle for him, and then he found some form and he got on the pace, and we were pleased to see the progress that the Russian was making, but it's gone a little bit wrong certainly here in Salbris, and Maxim Shaposhnikov at the moment, the guy who's struggling. But the Frenchman Julien Renaudin in a comfortable lead as we head towards the end of the second lap.
Good start to the race for Oriol Damo Caballero, who's the one that started in last place, started outside the qualifying zone, but he quickly at turn 3 got ahead of Maxim Shaposhnikov, and he's also now made his way up into 4th place. So he's got ahead also of the 773 cart of Aldis Timax. Aldis has slipped back from the front row start, the pole position that he had. So Renaudin and Kamali and Lambert are the top 3. They are beginning to break clear now. This 4th place battle, which has got Chris Groen, Damo Caballero battling pretty much nose to tail as they make their way through the chicane. Look at them as they come towards you on the screen. 4th and 5th pretty close together, but a glance over the shoulder will tell Damo Caballero that he doesn't need to try anything crazy here, because the driver behind him is 3 or 4 car lengths back and is also in the qualifying zone, and the one that's 7th is outside the qualifying zone. Shaposhnikov is quite a way back now, so he doesn't need to push forward. Of course, the higher up the race you get, the better your grid's going to be for the final, but the first and foremost, what you've got to do is not risk anything and just get through. It's not a massive difference whether you qualify 28th or 34th, is it? So you're still going to be towards the back. So they've got to get through, make sure their weekend continues. The all-blue colours of Julien Renaudin starts the 4th lap of the race and goes through into the hairpin at turn 2. He's 1.3 seconds clear. Kamali coming under a bit of pressure now from Florent Lambert, and a change for 4th place there. That is the Oriol Damo Caballero going through on the way into the left-hander. So he's come from 7th up to 4th place now, and Caballero getting ahead then of his man Chris Green in the 764 car. Chris Groen is still in the qualifying zone, as is Timax in 6th place, and Shaposhnikov is now about 1.5 seconds away from 6th place, so he's being left behind, isn't he, Ken?
Yes, and as I mentioned previously, it's a shame to see. It's a shame for anybody being detached in last in a race, but that was after Maxim Shaposhnikov had found some good form. But there we are. Alors, approchant la fin de la 4e tour, le Français Julien Renaudin, le leader, en 2e place de l'Allemagne, Luca Kamali, mais les Anglais-Français, les Franglais, né en la France, demeurant en l'Angleterre. En 3e place, Florent Lambert. Florent Lambert en challengeant pour le 2e place. Mais le leader, Julien Renaudin. C'est le 5e tour de 9 tours. Julien Renaudin, l'avantage 1.561 secondes. Julien Renaudin in a big lead of 1.5 seconds. Luca Kamali in 2nd place. And in 3rd place, Florent Lambert trying to close hard. But whilst we look at those two having a battle, again, the message from the race, as Chris said when he handed over to me, the meaning of the race is to find the difference between 6th and 7th. And sadly, Maxim Shaposhnikov not showing any signs of getting forward anytime soon, Chris.
I got the feeling that Florent Lambert in 3rd place is quicker than Kamali, but he's not taking any risk. He's got to get into the final, got to get into the pre-final, because only then can he start picking up points, and only then can he remain in this battle for the championship. But he's, I think, being held up a little bit, and Damo Caballero is closing up to him as a result of it. So those 3, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, you'll see coming towards you if you're watching online, coming into turn 7 there, are all together now. But nobody yet making the moves, although Caballero has been making the move so far. He goes for it up the inside on the way to turn 11, but runs wide and then goes for it again on the way into turn 10 up the inside. I think Florent Lambert will probably let him go. That's probably the sensible thing to do, because Caballero looks a bit braver here. He's going for it. He wants as high a grid as possible, and Caballero showing his good turn of pace now. So Florent lets him go and thinks, well, 3rd, 4th, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to get through. You can be slightly ahead of me on the grid if you like for the final, but I just want to get there first of all. So quite rightly so. So Julien Renaudin there, coming through your shots in the blue colours, has a massive lead in this race. 2.6 seconds clear of Kamali. Damo Caballero is 3rd now, and Florent Lambert 4th. They've pulled away from Chris Groen in 5th place. And then the driver that started on pole position, Aldis Timax, is 6th in the final qualifier at the moment, and he is now 3 seconds clear of Shaposhnikov. So Shaposhnikov can really now only hope that somebody ahead of him has a problem in this race. Otherwise, it looks, with 3 laps to go, or 2.5 laps to go, as if he's probably on the way out. Fastest lap to Julien Renaudin, the race leader, with a 61.901. So, la tour le plus vite à Julien Renaudin. 61 secondes. Et il a seulement 2 tours Raman. And a change for second place at the hairpin, as continuing in his form goes Damo Caballero. So Damo Caballero now from the back has come up into second place, and he's going to try and do something about catching the race leader. So now we've got Renaudin, Damo Caballero, Kamali's let him go in third. Fourth is Florent Lambert. Fifth is Chris Green. Timax is in sixth. Shaposhnikov, outside of the top 6, is dropping back.
Well, again, it is a bit cut and dried, and sorry to have to say it, but the significant situation with 1.5 laps remaining is that Maxim Shaposhnikov, overwhelmingly likely to be the driver not going forward into the pre-final. However, it can do a real good boost to your pride, to your ego, bragging rights almost. Julien Renaudin has this big lead of 3.1 seconds. I have to say that I'm not too surprised that Caballero has got himself up to second place. Maybe a little bit surprised it took him quite as long as it did. Luca Kamali in third place, just in front of Florent Lambert. When Chris was in commentary talking about the pass on Florent Lambert by Olo Dalmar Caballero, I was just thinking, oh, don't, whatever you do, infuriate Flo, because between the pair of you, you might do serious damage to yourselves. But better sense prevailed overall. Chris Groen comfortably in 5th place. Uldis Timax, well, what can you say? From pole to second last, it doesn't really augur well for his chances, does it? But there we are.
Well, half a lap to go. Renaudin has got a 3-second advantage. I think the gap will come down on this lap because Damo Caballero has been the quickest driver out there for a couple of laps now, although the overall fastest lap still held by Julien Renaudin. Julien then heads towards turn 13, and everybody pretty well spread out now. So unless there's a driver error or a mechanical problem, it looks like we've got our top 6 well and truly sorted here. Out of the final corner he comes, and Julien Renaudin wins the second chance heats here in the opening race of the day at Salbris. Second place goes to Oriol Damo Caballero and Luca Kamali, Florent Lambert, Chris Groen, and finally the driver that started on pole position, Uldis Timax, are the other qualifiers inside the top 6. I'm afraid we lose Maxim Shaposhnikov, the Russian driver, who has failed to qualify in 7th place, subject, of course, to all of the post-race checks. And we have had that before. Somebody who's finished 7th has made it through because somebody who's finished in the top 6 has been booted out with technical infringement. So we think it's the end of his day, but it's, of course, all subject to all the post-race checks. So you never know. You can hold on to that hope, but he just didn't have any pace in that race, did he?
We did in Germany have the guy who finished 9th, or took the checkered flag in 9th place, finding himself in 6th place. It can happen. Good point.
There you go then, confirmation of the results on screen. They're going to join the back of the grid. So Julien, if it stays like this, once they've all been checked, Julien Renaudin will start in 29th place on the grid for the DD2 final. On 30th on the grid will be Oriol Damo Caballero. 31st, Luca Kamali. 32nd, Florent Lambert. 33rd, Chris Groen. And 34th, and the last qualifier will be Uldis Timax, the Latvian driver. So that is the way it's finished. And we've got 2 more second chance heats to come. If you are a fan of DD2, if you want to watch DD2 in particular, the DD2 pre-final is going to be the first of our pre-finals. So we will run in this order, DD2 juniors and seniors in each of the 3 sets of races. And so the DD2 pre-final will be at 11:30. And well, that's just over an hour's time. So we're starting to build up now towards these big points scoring races. And I'm sure there's a little bit of tension out there in the paddock, a bit of excitement, a bit of nervous excitement as well. Certainly Ken and I are very, very excited about what's coming. It's always, nervous as well. A little tingle down the spine. It's always, after all, it was such a great season, it's always intriguing.